a professor of European Studies at Stanford University in Berlin. Welcome to the program, Ulrich. Is it possible that Viktor Orban owes Russia something? He doesn't allow any weaponry to cross Hungarian territory to be delivered to Ukraine. He's a problem for the EU at the moment, and maybe even for NATO.
Well, we have a long history of experiencing blackmailing from Viktor Orban. On the one hand, he's a member of the European Union and greatly benefits for everything the European Union has done for Hungary. On the other hand, he plays according to the populist playbook by painting black and white pictures, who are the good people, who are the bad people. And the European Union has served in the past as the bad people who don't allow Hungary to freely decide what values and principles are. And he owes Putin a lot because he still receives a lot of energy despite the 12 packages of sanctions that the European Union forced on Russia. So there are a number of different layers. And the situation that we have on the summit in Brussels at the moment is that the European Union is about to enlarge. And this is not just about Ukraine, but it needs to reform its system. And seeing that there is a single country as small and not as powerful as other member states that can block the whole process puts a lot of questions about, is the current institutional setting enough to challenge the future problems and find solutions on the European Union? So the EU has to deepen, and it has to deepen first, and then it can enlarge. And in the meantime, it has to deal with troublemakers like Viktor Orban, who's simply blackmailing the situation because he can.
Does he not have even the smallest point in terms of what the EU requires of new members is a certain adherence to EU values, and that regards also law about civil society, the judiciary, etc., etc. And we know that Ukraine has serious problems and probably still hasn't completed everything the EU would require for accession for any other country. So does Orban have any point that he's making that actually proves him to be correct?
Of course, he has a point, but the point is not something like a bargain chip that he uses to unfreeze the funds that the European Union blocked for, ironically, the exact same accusations that there is a serious corruption problem in Hungary, there's nepotism, there's democratic backsliding, and the EU listed a number of preconditions that Hungary has to fulfill in order to unfreeze the funding for Hungary. Now, ironically, he almost quotes the European Union in making a case against against Ukraine, to use the situation that under unanimity, the European Union needs Hungary, and therefore he exploits the situation that is something everyone is aware of. If you set the bar too low, you lose credibility. If you set the bar too high for a country like Ukraine, it will never get in. And there is a need for a political signal to be sent to Ukraine. We support you. You have a future in the West. But if we give it for free, at least the Western Balkans that were waiting forever to join the European Union would scratch their head and ask, why are there double standards? Do we just need a war in order to get in?
When do you think, if indeed Viktor Orban comes on side and agrees with his fellow EU leaders about accession for Ukraine, when do you think, or how do you think that's going to happen in terms of, will the EU have to make concessions to Orban, or will it just be a matter of time and he'll say, okay, now I'm ready?
Well, the EU, or specifically the European Commission, unfreezed already 10 billion of the total amount that Hungary urgently needs, because it's nothing less than the total amount of the annual investments of the whole country. So this is not peanuts. This is money that define the future of this country. But he plays hardball for so many years already that he simply can go on like this. I wouldn't bet on this is going to be a success, even if it does major damage to the credibility of the European Union and will count as a major win of Putin.
Are you saying that there's a definite link, Ulrich, between that release of the $10 billion in financial assistance that Hungary would be eligible for anyway in normal circumstances, and there's a link between that money and what's happening right now in terms of what the EU leaders are discussing?
Well, since summer, the European Commission announced that there is a chance that they will unfreeze at least a portion, that they do it a day before this summit, knowing that this is the bargain position of Orban. Certainly it doesn't come as a surprise, and there is a link, even if there is no logical link. It's just the big bargaining situation. And if someone would teach a game theory class, it would be a perfect example, and one could even find it ironic. But the irony ends if people in Ukraine die because the support that the European Union offers will not come on time. And then it's no longer funny.
As always, Ulrich, thank you so much indeed for your time.